but I did want to take an opportunity to showcase shredded wheat in different little ways, and including with these different little sauces, because the great thing about shredded wheat, I find, is that because it doesn't have a distinctive flavor profile, you can really use it anywhere and in any way. And I'm sure we all run into situations where you got no food in the house, you only have cereal. Well, honestly, like shredded wheat, and guests pop over, you can put together a pretty nice little snack with shredded wheat if you chose to, right? So there's just all sorts of little different applications, and I have, as I mentioned earlier, quite a bit of fun thinking about different ways that I could present shredded wheat and really show that, you know what, it's an old, I was raised on shredded wheat. I'm sure that my father, my mother were as well, and what's, like so many things, what was old is new again, and what was always good about shredded wheat is even more pertinent today when we want to have less ingredients. We want to know what the ingredients are in our food. So you take something like shredded wheat, which only has one ingredient, and then you add whatever you want, but at least you know what you put into it. If you put sugar into it, if you put salt into it, or whatever else it is. And I think it's a fairly unique product. Pardon me. Choking on my shredded wheat. So from a sort of like a base ingredient, it's almost like having flour in the house, because it's just becomes a very universal ingredient if you choose to use it as such. But anyway, so for this one, I've got a little lemon curd, what I'm calling strawberry cheesecake, of course warm chocolate sauce, and on the table is a rhubarb ginger dip, and if you can handle spice in the morning, a chili maple dip. So some different variations on flavor, on different flavors that really any flavor works well because it is a fairly neutral flavor profile of the actual product. One of my roles, and please feel free to dip in. I don't want to keep you from eating, but I am going to talk to you for a couple of minutes, so that's all right. One of my roles with Hyatt is I'm the lead chef on the Stay Fit program within Hyatt. And I've been in that role now for about 4 years. So it's really raised my awareness of healthful food. And it's always been something a little bit close to my heart because I was raised on the farm, so I have a pretty good understanding of how food gets to the plate and all those sorts of things. But what we lose sight of, I think, as chefs, is the fact, we're just all about, make it look great, make it taste great, but we don't necessarily pay attention to, well, do you really want to put that into your body? And do you really want, therefore, to put that into somebody else's body? So things like the types of oil that we choose to use, very important, because obviously oil is one of those fundamental ingredients in the commercial kitchen and no doubt in the home kitchen as well. So, just sort of enlightening the chefs in the company to make those choices where they can. There's no cost benefit to not use canola oil instead of what they call salad oil in the States. So why not use canola oil? It's a healthier oil. What's in it? Canola. So there's lots of those sorts of opportunities that we have as professional chefs within our company, but no doubt every chef, where we can make choices that are much more conscientious than what we may have done previously. And that's my role, is to help to really push that forward and to make sure that there's, as much as possible, that we're helping other chefs understand, specifically within Hyatt in this case, but here in my own property, you don't really need to use half a liter of oil. You could really use a quarter liter of oil and have a very tasty product. You don't really need to use a tablespoon of salt. You could probably get away with a teaspoon of salt. And the nice thing about what I get to do in that role is really help people understand that, in our world, it doesn't need to be about extremes. It just needs to be about making good choices every time you can. Every time there is an option to make a good choice, make the good choice. If that's a product that's grown locally, if that's fish that has been harvested ethically, whatever the case may be. So, we're not proponents of extreme, either vegetarianism or no carbohydrate or any of those things. What we're saying is eat, enjoy, but do it in good conscience. And what you're feeding other people, do that in good conscience. And then everything will be fine. And I think in North America, one of our big issues is how much pre-prepared food we use in general, not just as professional chefs, but generally speaking, you know, and you don't realize, like, ketchup comes from somewhere. Ketchup comes from tomatoes and vinegar and sugar, and, you know, there's all sorts of things, and we don't necessarily have to, there's a lot of mysteries out there, and we can thank our food manufacturers, sorry Shreddy, for that, because in North America, and Canada is the same thing, but we're a little less, I think because we stick closer to our ethnic roots, and we're allowed to do that, we're encouraged to do that. Sort of real cooking is a little closer to us in many cases than perhaps in the US, where now people are really trying to get back to that, but there was a long period, probably from before the war until probably the early 80s, where people were not encouraged to use whole wheat and to actually, you know, cook. They're encouraged to cook like good white Americans cook, and that is white bread, white sugar, all those kind of white rice, all those kinds of things that now caused obesity issues and all the other issues that come along with poor eating habits, which, you know, unfortunately in many cases it was caused, you know, it was caused by us. So here we are at the, you know, coming full cycle into, okay, hang on a second, let's try to do the right thing sometimes. And is hollandaise good for you? No, probably not, but it's real butter. You know, it's all real ingredients. It's white wine, it's bay leaf, it's peppercorn, it's a reduction that we make with that. It's butter, it's fresh lemon juice, and yeah, there's some salt in there. But the other thing too I find is people try to get into extremes where they take no sodium. Well, we all need sodium, but what we don't need is to sit down and salt our food before we even taste it. You know, what we don't need is to overkill everything that we do with salt, and that's a habit. So many of us have lost the palate. So when we eat something like shredded wheat, it's like, oh, it doesn't taste like anything, it's bland. Well, it's bland because you're so conditioned to heavy sugar and salt that the things that don't have that don't taste good to you. You know, and I'll use like our employee restaurant as an example. Several years ago, when I first started working at this hotel, which is now actually 16 years ago, you know, they use like Lipton's soup and Campbell soup in the employee restaurant. And we stopped that because I didn't want to use bases and things of that nature. Well, I had so many complaints at that time because people didn't think that the homemade soups tasted good. You know, so it's a conditioning. It's just what you become accustomed to eating. And in our fast food lifestyle, or our fast-paced lifestyle, it can be very difficult to make the healthy choices, especially if you don't know how to cook at all, which happens a lot. And more importantly, if you just can't make the time for it. So that's where products like, I think, shredded wheat, there's a lot of other products out there, although it's a manufactured product, very short list of ingredients. In fact, only one ingredient. So it makes healthful options a lot easier to make for yourself or your family, whoever comes to your table. And like I say, we, you know, as a company, and personally as a chef, you know, we really try to work towards just enlightenment. Really, it's enlightenment. It's like, yeah, I might eat a 16-ounce ribeye steak this summer, but I know exactly what I'm eating, and I know that I'm not going to eat that every night, or not even every week, because that's just like way too much red meat. But sometimes for a treat, that's okay. It's just like having a strawberry shortcake in June with fresh whipped cream. You know, it's okay. You know, if you're watching your calories, maybe not so okay, but from a health point of view, if you're gonna have it, then let's have it with the real whipped cream, real butter, what have you, and have like really good stuff. Just don't have it so often, and just don't have so much of it, and we'll all live much healthier. Anyway, I'm lecturing, aren't I?